Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello everyone and welcome to another recommendations video, and today we have a Mafia recommendations video, which I know y'all love. I love too. One of my first loves in a dark romance is Mafia. I just adore it. And this was a viewer suggested video, which you can always suggest a video down below. I always have a link to a form and I do check that form pretty regularly, though some of the recs might get too oddly specific. I still very much welcome them because you never know when one is just going to spark my mind and I'm going to be like, oh, that is the one that needs to be told right now. And I realized I hadn't made a Mafia specific video really since May, which I mean, I know that's not that long ago, but I usually have a couple a month that are like Mafia focused because I know those are a big fave. And this one actually led me to, I want to do a bit of a talky video here to start with before we get into it, because I think that I say it'll go relative. I don't think this video will be short. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? I don't think it will be short. But I mean, because, as you can tell by the title, this is going to be about completed Mafia series. So series where you can binge the whole thing. The whole series is out. You're not going to be left hanging for anything. So I'm not going to talk about each individual book much. I'll probably touch on which are my favorite in the series and which tropes we kind of see. That stuff is probably where we'll go, because in general, every single one of these I've talked about in multiple videos. Anyway, the discussion I want to have is that the question that the person kind of put with this request, because again, this was anonymous, so I don't know who asked this, which is totally fine, because in the form you can choose that you want to shout out or you can choose that you just want it to be anonymous. Both are totally fine. They said that they wanted series that were already complete and I think don't have any spin-offs that are incomplete. I think that's how it was worded. Actually, let me pull it up. Okay, so this question I just thought was worded in a very interesting way. And while I do want to provide the recommendations that I have, it also, as I said, led to me wanting to have a bit of a discussion about series that, or authors that, like, their books just never seem to end, right? And, like, where that comes from and why, to maybe kind of help people understand that sometimes you just can't wait until an entire everything is finished, even though that's my preference as well. We'll talk about it. But the way they worded this was that wanted some recommendations from me, happy to do that, and that ones that the series is complete and or has spin-offs now, ones that don't have that going. Basically, is because their point was that, like, the way I'm taking this is that spin-offs also still feel like the series isn't over and they don't want to get into one where there's no conclusion to it, right? And I found that very interesting because they do reference a specific book in here too. They talk about how they were going to start the series by Nikki Harris, and then when they went to look, there's another book still coming. I'm actually on Nikki Harris's content team. You've maybe noticed that if you've noticed a lot of shorts that I've been posting. I've just been putting a lot of her stuff on my YouTube shorts because it just keeps the algorithm showing something without me having to do too much content. Anyway, it's a whole thing. YouTube is a business, it's a game, it's also the place where I'm able to give you wonderful recommendations, right? That's how it goes. But that series of hers is finished. She's putting out epilogue novellas is basically what that series is. So just wanted to clear that up in that way, is that the Kids of the District there's 6 books in the series, and then she has some epilogue novellas that are coming out. So sure, people can wait till this series is done, but those are all just like HEA. She's continuing with the stories because people love them. They're ones that are for anthologies or the ones like that. So whoever this is who recommended that, I just want to tell you, like, the Nikki Harris series is done. That specific book, which is His Pretty Little Revenge, His Pretty Little Revenge, is a epilogue story about Fawn and shoot, I just forgot his name. But there was a epilogue novella that was about their children being born, and then this is one that I don't know what it's about yet, but it's coming in December. So the 6 main books in that series are finished. So I just want to put that out there. That is a series that is finished. Those are just novellas she's adding to, you know, please her readers and fun stuff like that. But again, where I want to have a bit of a discussion before we get into these is about ongoing series or spin-off series, and some of us who can just get very tired of those. Now, I'm not specifically talking about when they do second gen series, though again, I will touch on that as well in a moment, but ones where there's a series of, let's say, 4, and then at the end we get introduced to a new character and we jump to a new series. And I've just got to tell you, people who are looking for ones that are completed, I have a few to share, but in all honesty, the thing you're asking for is you're asking for an author to basically be done writing, right? Because most authors, and the ones who have built really strong, thriving businesses, they do have interconnected worlds, right? And I've talked about being fatigued about this before as well. So again, I'm not judging anyone who's asking for these because I feel the same. But a really talented author does start to seed those new characters and make you excited for their books so that you will continue wanting to read them, right? Like, that is always a risk an author takes, is when they choose to end a series and start a new one. Are people going to be done with their books? Are they going to, you know, not come back for a next series? And if you've seeded a new character, that makes it feel like the series isn't complete to get you to step into their next series. Well, I mean, that is their business. That's what any author is trying to do, but particularly in the indie space, that is what you need. You need those loyal audience members, readers. I'm calling us audience or readers. You get it. It's interchangeable. You need that, you know? Now, I think some authors do it better than others. I think some authors don't need to jump to a second gen because, as I've shared, I feel like second gen series very rarely work out because of, especially in dark romance. This is in dark romance. In contemporary romance, I think it works much smoother and better because you don't have to have the first generation's parents be fucked up, right? Which, again, I've talked about that in my second gen. I've made a whole video that is about second generation series, and I'll link that up here. We get into that discussion in that video. Yes, I do have a video for everything. Don't you know that by now? Don't you know that by now, right? And so it's this fine line, right? Because as a reader, you can get fatigued and be like, okay, well, you're just dragging me on and on forever. And again, there is a line you have to walk of like, are you just teasing that character and then will their book not live up to it? Or Riley. Or do you not have a great idea for that spin-off series and then it just feels like we're being dragged along? Maggie Cole. Ones like that, you know? And so that's the tricky thing. But when an author does really think that out, when they get those ideas and they play them right, it can lead to a very successful series of series that just do go on and on and on. And then you all of a sudden have something like the Renaverse, which again, I've not read the whole extended Renaverse. I'm someone who I'd read a few here and there, and Legacy of the Gods onward is where I hopped on, right? But if you do it right, then if people enter your series at any certain time and they like it, they can then go back and have all these books to read, and they're now in it for the future of books you have to read. So if I had a perfect answer for that, you know, I would be making $1 million because I would share with all the authors that I knew. But it really is just individual to each author and how they make it work. But if you think there aren't authors who that is their plan and that's their business to seed that and make it keep going, I mean, you're just not paying attention, because that is how you have a successful indie author who can keep going and make a business of this, is they've set up where they always know which series they're going to next. They always have people excited for it. They've set basically a precedent of like what each series is going to be like. You know, there's going to be a single dad. You know, there's going to be an age gap. You know, there'll be a brother's best friend. But yet they still hit every time because they still bring a unique magic to each story, even if some things are predictable. That is where we're at in romance as a whole, right? And I don't want this to fully go off the rails, but you know, once you wind me up, I'm just ready to going to tell you everything. So anyway, that's just and I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on how you think about this. But with some of these I'm going to share, that was kind of my point in reference to this person's request for completed Mafia series. I do have quite a few that are completed Mafia series, but the author is still writing in the universe. I then have some where the universe is closed, at least what the author has said, and they've moved on to other things. Now, does that mean that author won't come back when they're not making money doing another series and they know if they announce going back to that world, they're going to make a shit ton of money, and so they do it? Yes. And I don't shame an author for doing that because, again, I work for an author who's kind of doing that with some stuff, right? But it's also like, do your audience want that? Or are you just continuing on it because you don't have an idea for something new or you're afraid to branch out, right? And both of those things can be true, you know, and you will always have people who do like it. And so, you know, you just got to be careful of what echo chamber you're in. Like, do you want to reach outside the audience you have, or do you just feel comfortable with where you are, right? There's all those things. And I am not an author. I am just a consumer of a vast amount of books. I do not have a perfect answer. These are just my thoughts on my little corner of the internet. And again, there's no shade in any way of this. But as we go through my list, which I think I ended up with 12 series to talk about, some of these, as I said, we have a closed universe. And so I'll be able to just recommend a completed series. And some of them, you know, there are 40 books you can read that all connect in some way to each other. Because that is what's successful for that author. And so why would they step away from it and possibly risk people being angry that they stopped writing what they wanted, and stuff like that. So anyway, 10, 12, whoa, almost 13 minutes already of setup. But hopefully you skipped to the books. I'll have put a thing at the beginning so people can skip to it here. But that was just what I wanted to touch on. So I do have notes for this one because some of these series I read a long time ago and some of them it's more recent. But let's jump in. I have 13 different series that at least the books in the series I'm going to recommend are completed. As to that part I mentioned where there's no extended world going, I can't guarantee that for most of them because either A, that author is going to keep writing connected to that world because otherwise, like, they would lose readers. I don't know. But at least the series I'm going to recommend to you are completed with the characters in them. They didn't leave anybody, like, hanging to you or stuff like that. So, all right, we got to start off with one of my favorites. And I actually just reread the last book in the series because I annotated it for one of my patrons. And it made me so, so happy. And it made me want to reread all of them. But we, of course, have the Queens and Monsters series. Now, already, I realized I should have grabbed the other two books. We have the J.T. Geisinger World, let's say. Because there is also the Beautifully Cruel Duet, which is about two brothers, and then that leads into the Queens and Monsters series, which begins with Ruthless Creatures. Then we have Carnal Urges, which was my 2021 favorite book of the year. This is the one of the ones that was just annotated, and I also have one that's signed from Daddy, Big Daddy here. I love it so much. Jenn asked me to spank you, is what it says right here from Daddy Declan, and I could die. I love it so much. Then there is Savage Hearts, and then there is Brutal Vows. So for the most part, these 6 books are a closed world here. You can start with this one here. You get introduced to some characters you'll see in this one. But for the most part, if you just picked up this one, you'll barely see reference to Killian Black as kind of the character that overlaps from here. And you can just read these 4. The audios are fantastic. They've just been redressed. Actually, I have that series back here, but I'm always going to want to show off my sexy man covers. Okay. Look at their little heads popping out there. I'm always going to want to, show them off because they're stunning. But I'll tell you what these ones are about in just a second. But even in, as I said, the new series she has coming out, which actually the last book in this trilogy just came out. I'm reading it right now. I haven't finished it yet because things got very busy. But that series, Killian Black pops up in those as well. So you know it all takes place in the same universe. But as far as I've seen so far, none of the characters from this world have popped up in there. but Killian Black has popped up in it. So what is the Queens and Monsters? These are mafia, but they're all, not all of them are in the same like mafia group. Like in this one, we have, this is Cage and Natalie lost her fiance a few years ago, and it turns out that that guy was a bit sketchier than we thought, and so Cage shows up, and he is actually supposed to like kill her or get information about her dead fiance. Sorry if I said husband, it's her fiance. Let's just say he ends up not being able to follow through with it, right? Then we have Carnal Urges. Now this one is Declan and Sloane. Sloane is the best friend of Natalie, and she gets kidnapped by Declan because his boss wants to like teach a lesson to Cage, and he can't get a hold of Cage's woman, but they get a hold of Sloane because Sloane, like I said, best friends with Natalie. They're ride or die for each other. And he bites off more than he could chew. A whole damn lot for sure. Then we have Savage Hearts. Now this guy is sent to kind of also get like revenge against Declan, and he is sent to assassinate him. And this is, which one is this one? Sorry, this one is Mal. I think this is Mal. He is sent to assassinate Declan, but instead he ends up kidnapping Sloane's sister, who comes to meet Declan and hang out with him. And so this one ends up, those two end up falling in love, and he kidnaps her and takes her to a cabin, and there's a bear attack and all that. And then this one is about Spider, aka Homer Quinn. His name is Homer Quinn, but we call him Spider. And he agrees to an arranged marriage with the Italian mafia. That's right. These are, I think it's Russian mafia is the first one, and then there is the, or are they the Irish or the, I can't remember. I think it's I mean, I know Deck is Irish, but I think it's the Irish mafia for one, and then Mal is also from like Russia or something, and then this one is the Irish mafia. Spider gets sent to do this arranged marriage with the Italians because Declan was supposed to do the marriage, but guess what? He already has a woman. He's not going to be marrying the Italian, and Spider agrees to do it, and he ends up falling for the aunt of the young woman that he's supposed to get married to, and they end up getting married when the marriage with the niece isn't going to work out. So that's the one I just reread. Loved revisiting this. Love these characters so much. So there we go. That is that series. That is considered probably my top mafia series of all time. You'll notice too, I tried to pick ones I don't talk about all the time, and I feel like I haven't talked about Queens and Monsters too much lately because it was only just re-released, as I said. So that's why I brought it back around. Like, I'm not going to talk about every single series. I'm just talking about a few of them. But then we have some that, these are the ones I consider kind of an intro to Mafia, as I say. Very soft, sweet books for the most part. That doesn't mean there still isn't dark stuff happening in them. But this author, she has been putting them out in kind of like duets. So she has 2 Mafia duets currently, and they both are out. They take place in the same world. There are also a couple novellas that fill in a few characters on the side. But this is the Men of the Falls as the first duet. So this is Aldo and Roman. This is a special edition that I got when I went to meet her in, Iowa. And so Aldo and Roman run a casino, hotel in Canada, and Roman is the boss. Aldo is his right-hand man. Aldo falls for a woman who gets a job at the hotel, and they start off as just like lovers with benefits. And this is actually a pretty short one. So Aldo, I have them split by their books, and Aldo is almost novella length, basically, a little bit longer than that. And then Roman is a more full-size book, and Roman's book is, there is this nasty lady who owes him money, and she tries to sell him her sister in lieu of the money she owes. And he's like, no, I'm not going to buy your sister from you. But instead she shows up with the money, and he's like, oh shit, what did you do to your sister? And he just feels guilty. Like I said, this is a pretty soft mafia. Like, they're definitely an organized crime. It definitely is, they'll call it the syndicate or the family business in here, but it definitely is a bit softer. So he feels very guilty about this and goes to investigate and discovers that the bitch did still sell her sister, but sold her now to a very cruel, evil man. And so he goes and rescues the sister, but it pisses off I think it's the Italian or the Mexican cartel. I think that's who it is. And so now he has to pretend that, well, she was my fiance. You kidnapped my fiance, so you have nothing to say about it. I'm taking her back, and screw you, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what happens in this one. And then this poor woman who's already just been traumatized, found out her sister betrayed her, all that jazz. She's now is engaged to a mafia guy. Then there is the Irishman duet. This duet just came out, and this one is Finn and Niall. And the first one is actually so aching and longing. I just adored Finn so much. And this one is actually a kind of a second chance. They were falling for each other, and then she got a bit scared away from him. But she does work for him. And she just doesn't want to be with a mafia man because that is the life she grew up in. Her father was part of it, and she doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. But he is just waiting for her because he's like, you're the one that I want, and so I will patiently wait until you're ready to give us a chance. And then her brother tries to fuck it up. Then there is Niall, and Niall now is the right-hand man to Finn. And when they, let's just say, have to rescue Finn's woman, they also rescue this woman named Anna, and Anna and Niall end up falling in love, and there's that. So those are 4 books from Melanie Moreland that are completely encapsulated. You do see Roman and Aldo show up in Finn and Niall's books, so probably read The Men of the Falls first. But those are 2 different duets, and then there is a novella in there that's about one of Roman's, I think, like cousins or something. So there's that one in there as well. Okay, next up we have another series that, as far as I know, is just what it is. As of now, the author hasn't announced that there's any more to do in this world. So as of now, this is a safe series if you want a completed series. And we have the Alliance series from S.J. Tilly, okay? Now, this is a series that is absolutely positively bonkers as hell. Okay, it's very sexy. I think all of the heroines are plus size, possibly. I think they all are. The men are completely obsessed. These are pretty kinky as well. They're absolutely over the top. These are also ones that I would consider soft mafia because though they are a part of organized crime, they are the gooeyest goops that you've ever met. I don't know what else to say. I got by on just total vibes with these. The audiobooks are very good. But yeah, I mostly fell for these, I always say, because these are like local to me mafia in a way. The first one specifically is Minneapolis, Minnesota, like organized crime, because S.J. Tilly is from this area, and I met her in Iowa for the first time actually too. And Nero was just coming out, so I have a signed copy from her that says, "For you, I am certifiable." And this was so not a thing yet. This book was just nothing yet when I got it, and King wasn't even out yet. And the way this has blown up, it brings me a lot of joy. I won't lie. It brings me a lot of joy at how much it has blown up. So there's Nero. This one begins with actually Nero climbing in her, I think, 3rd floor deck window she has open, and he's hiding from the police in there, and he becomes obsessed with her after meeting her that way, and it goes from there. Then there's King, who this one starts off with our heroine going on like the 3rd date with a guy she's met online, and she goes to bring her sick friend like a lasagna. Her friend has had like a broken foot, and she brings her food, and visiting her friend already is her other friend and that friend's brother, and that other friend of the friend she's visiting is actually the wife of the man she's on a date with. So things escalate very quickly when she walks in, and it is her husband. And King is that said brother, and he goes about very quickly dispatching his disgusting brother-in-law. And it just so happens that the heroine in this one, who's in this one, Savannah, ends up almost witnessing the death of that, and now she gets kidnapped by King, and he's going to force her to marry him so she can't tell on him. Then there's Dom, and this one is about Val, who is actually a half-sister of King, and Dom wants King to let him into the alliance, and so he goes about kind of manipulating Val, though he is obsessed with Val, okay? The woman wants her, all right? And you'll notice on the front, he gets her name tattooed on his neck, so he's pretty damn serious about her, let's just say. And he goes about convincing her that she loves him so that he can manipulate her brother into getting him in the alliance, but he is also super hot for her. Then we have Hans and Cassie end up being neighbors. Hans is actually a hitman, and he owns actually most of the homes in his neighborhood, but he isn't able to buy the one that Cassie's in because he's away for work. And she wants to be friends with her neighbor, so she brings him some food that she's made. Even though it's absolutely disgusting, he eats every bit of it because he is obsessed with her. And he's like, I must eat everything she makes for me, even though it's probably slowly poisoning him because she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing in the kitchen. And yeah, he becomes obsessed with her. And I love them. So those are absolutely insane. The most bonkers men you've ever read that are like the sweetest. But that's a completed series. She hasn't said that there'll be more in that world. So there you go. Okay, then we have The Kings of Italy by Mila Finelli, aka Joanna Shupe. Now, this is the series that I'm bringing up that, yes, this one has a spin-off series, okay? She currently has just started a spin-off series that is the New York Mafia. These ones are Sicilian. They take place in Italy for the most part. For the most part. And, yeah, these ones are also bonkers. Like, Mafia is often bonkers, right? Like, we know that. But in and of itself, this is a complete series. All the, like, main men and women in this one are all in this one, but the brother of one of the guys ends up being in this second series that spins off. So if you really truly want all the books by the author to be done, maybe you don't want this one, but there's 5 books and 1 novella in this series, and I think that it's worth it. So let's start off with these first 2 because they are a duet. The first 2 books are a duet. We have Mafia Mistress and Mafia Darling, and these are about Francesca and Fausto, and Francesca is actually supposed to marry Fausto's son, but his son is actually gay, and I think we call her, do we call her Frankie? I think we call her Frankie. That's often what we call Francesca, but whatever. She finds out very quickly that the man she's supposed to marry is gay, and they become really more friends than they'll ever be lovers. And Fausto, who, he got Frankie because her father owes him something and he needed a wife for his son, and so he's like, well, she'll be fine, let's pick her. But he ends up wanting her for himself, so he's like, you know what, I'll find a different woman to marry my son. I'll keep you as my mistress instead. And she's like, excuse me? So this one is kind of like a boyfriend's dad, except not, because she was never intimate with that guy at all. They weren't like in love or anything. They become friends, but it still is like fiance's dad, because Fausto means for her to marry his son, and he can't help but want to control her and obsess over her. Now, they have a toxic as fuck relationship, okay? And there are a lot of mistakes that Fausto makes, particularly in this book, but this is a series that at the time I read it, only these 2 books were out so far. Yeah, only these 2 books were out so far. So I read this, and the cliffhanger at the end of this book, I was mad, okay? And I only started this book because I was like, okay, well, I have to see where you're going with this, because I was angry. And then I really enjoyed Mafia Darling, and I enjoyed how Fausto had to grovel and how he had to make up for it. And I even like a lot how he makes up with his son, because again, it's not him being homophobic that is why he doesn't want his son to be gay. It's because in their world, if you're gay, you are weak, you are a nuisance, and they will try to kill you. And so it's more a fear for his son's life. But the way he ends up at the end of this, where he's like, I dare you, come after my boy, come after me, and we'll see how it goes for you. And I, of course, love that attitude for his son. Like, love it. Then there is Mafia Madman, and this is where we get to see the romance for Enzo and one of Frankie's sisters. I have to turn this a little bit. I'm angling way over there, and I'm like, you gotta just move the camera closer, Jen. Enzo is kind of the villain in these two books, though I will say Fausto makes this worse than he needs to. And Enzo wants revenge. And so his revenge is he kidnaps Gia, who is Frankie's sister, and he bites off more than he can chew. Like, by a mile, because Gia is like, sir. He strips her naked and puts her in a cage, basically, and she's like, you know what I'm gonna do? Instead of huddling in the corner trying to cover my lady bits, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to do some yoga, keep limber, so I'm ready to fight when I need to fight. She's badass, okay? She is badass. I love her. And that then makes Enzo want to gouge out the eyes of all of his men, even though he's the one who put her in there naked. He thought she would huddle in the corner and give him whatever he wanted so she could have a blanket. And she's like, nope, now it seems time to do sun salutation in my buck naked self. And I respect that. Okay, I respect it a lot. Then we got Mafia Target, which this is an romance. And yes, this is Giulio and Alessio. And Giulio is said son of Fausto, who is gay. Now, in this book, he has been pretending he was dead to kind of keep his father, like to keep them all safe, right? But his father really doesn't like that he's having to pretend to be dead, but Giulio's like, that will take some of the heat off of us. But then we have Alessio, who he's an assassin, and he gets called on to take out, he gets hired by Enzo to take these people out, let's just say it. But in doing some of his stalking, he's following Giulio, and he realizes that Giulio is gay, and kind of realizes that's part of the reason he's been set to, like, take him out. Though for Enzo's side of things, it isn't because Giulio's gay, it's because he's Fausto's son, and he wants revenge against him. So we'll just say that for Enzo, at least. But anyway, he is stalking him, and he ends up becoming very fascinated with him. And he does kind of break his, I don't know, Assassin's Creed, as it were, and actually goes to a club that Giulio is in. And they end up having this very sexy encounter with one another. And now Alessio is stalking him even more, and for different reasons. And there's really this game of cat and mouse that these two are playing. So, very hot. Really enjoyed that one. Then there is a little novella that's also that's called Mafia Devil. And this one, I believe, I don't fully remember this one, I'll be honest. But I know this is Nikolai, who is Bratva. And then the other hero is Theo. And Theo doesn't know that Nikolai is part of the Mafia. And they kind of are having this fling together, and then discover... when he discovers who he is, he's like, you're a mafioso. I don't know if I want to be with you. So, little drama there. Then the final book in the series is Mafia Virgin. And this one is Emma and Giacomo. And Emma is the last sister of Frankie. She had two sisters. And this one is a forced marriage for the both of them. And this one is one that... they need to make a baby in a certain amount of time, so she's supposed to be this young, innocent bride, who is supposed to be a baby maker, and between the two of them, they're kind of like, are we going to let ourselves be pushed around? And it's like, well, what choice do we have about it, right? And in a way, it's like, each of these women before have, like, escaped having to have an arranged marriage, really, right? Because, I mean, Frankie still ended up with Fausto, but she was supposed to marry his son. She ends up with him. And then Gia ends up with Enzo, who really wasn't in the plan at all. And then Emma is kind of the one now who, like, has to do the marriage because her sisters are with other people. So there's that aspect, too. So, yeah. Then, like I said, there are some spin-off books for that one. But all of those are encapsulated, right? It's like the three sisters, they all get theirs. And then this spin-off series, the first one is about two characters we don't know. But book 2 does have Enzo's brother, right? So Mafia Madman. Enzo has two brothers and a sister. And one of his brothers is in Empire of Seduction. So there's those. Okay, then we have another author who, she does have the spin-off series, okay? But currently she has a series and a duet that are fully out. And those are actually all the books she's written so far, which is crazy. So we have the Fallen series by Gabrielle Sands. And this series begins with When She Unravels. And this one is fantastic, okay? This series, this book was so unique at the time, and I just gobbled it up. So this one is Valentina, and let me find the guy's name. I don't know if I remember it off the top of my head. There's Valentina. Ooh, all the Valentina. Give me a hero's name here. And Diamo. Yeah, and Damiano. Okay. And in this one, our heroine is actually married to a disgusting cretin of a man, forced marriage on her part, and the man she's married to is actually like a torturer for the mafia, and he gets off on making her help him. And so she's been forced to help with these different evil deeds, until one night there's a beautiful woman, like she's like a teenager, but old. I think she's like 19. Can't remember fully, but I think she's like 19. And Valentina is asked to torture her, and she's like, "This is my limit." And so she actually turns on her husband and attacks him, and her and the girl are able to escape. And they get to the airport, and she's like, take this money, get a flight, get out of here. And she does the same thing. And so she goes to Ibiza is where she ends up, and she ends up starting to like work there, but then she has her money stolen, and now she is like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? And she ends up working for Damiano as basically a cleaner, literally cleaning the club, cleaning his office and things like that, and they end up falling for each other until she meets his sister, who was the girl that she rescued. But of course she doesn't quite see it that way, right? This girl was traumatized and almost abused. And now Damiano is like, oh my gosh, you're connected to the mafia because of who, like it's true, she was. And so now he takes her captive. So it's a very interesting thing, because it's like she was basically held captive by this evil husband, and she escaped, and now she's being held captive for escaping, right? So yeah, this one was fascinating. Loved it. Then there was When She Tempts. I think I'm doing these in order. Sorry, let me check. Oh, it doesn't have them numbered. Come on, Gabrielle. Can't we have them numbered? I don't know. I think this one is, but this one is Martina de Rossi. And her brother is going to become the Don. Okay. So yeah, this one is about the sister. And he's supposed to keep her safe. And so it's kind of like a bodyguard one. And they fall in love there. Then there is When She Falls. And this one is Raz Sorrentino. He's the underboss of the Camorra. And yeah, that's right. I think this one is, she's supposed to get married to Rafe. I think this is the sister who's supposed to marry Rafe, and she ends up falling in love for his underboss. I think that's what this one is. No, it's not his underboss, because it's the Camorra. So I don't know. It's been a long time since I read some of these. I'm sorry. But anyway, this is about one of the other sisters. But I do know that this is one where like she's engaged to Rafe, who I'll share his book in a minute. I know that much. And I know that what ends up happening is that she falls in love, and she does get pregnant by someone else. And so her sister, which we'll skip to here, her sister, I think this one is Cleo. She steps in and says, so there won't be war. I will offer myself up for the arranged marriage. And the thing is, Rafe, he is all too quick to jump on this, because he really wants her, and he'd actually been kind of falling for her, even though he was supposed to marry the sister too. So he plays it cool, like, oh, well, I guess I'll take the other sister instead of the one I'm supposed to marry. And secretly he's like, yes. But he's like, no, I need to remain emotionless. I'm never going to love someone. Well, good luck. And so Cleo, though she does agree to this marriage, like it's kind of her idea to save her sister, she's hoping that she can make him so annoyed with her that he will, you know, either not pay attention to her or give her a divorce or whatever. Because she's like, well, if he backs out of the marriage, that'll be okay. And so she tries to do all these crazy things. Like one of my favorite things, she has a shopping spree where she spends like $1 million in an afternoon. And he's just like, I'll just up your credit limit. Like he's that, she just can't drive him away. So this is my favorite in the series. I really like this one. And this is the one that spins off. So there's this full series, and then there's a duet that is when he takes and when he desires and when he takes. And that one spins off of when he loves, because the right-hand man of Rafe, he causes some problems and he's supposed to get killed for it. Like basically the price is his life. Now it isn't just something that he did though too. Like it's kind of Rafe's fault, kind of his fault at the same time. But Rafe can't kill his right-hand man. He doesn't. So they fake his death and he gets sent away. And when he gets sent away, he takes a friend with, and they go to this small town in the middle of nowhere. And so when he desires, it's kind of like a mafia romance in a small town. Like it's very interesting. And he meets a woman there. And then by the end of that first part of the duet, she finds out who he is, and they actually go back to are they in New York? I don't know where they're at, but they go back where they are, and that's where we meet the family that the new series will be about, which is the Ferreros. The new series is called The House of Ferrero, and that hero Nero, he ends up having to like work with the he has to work with the Ferreros for a while to make up for what he did. And that's when we get introduced to them. And so the first book in that series is out, which was Be With Me. The audiobook for that like just came out as well. But the Fallen series is complete. The duet after it is complete. So you can dive into any of those if you want to. We have the Morelli family from San Mariano. This is a completed series. This is a series that is absolutely bonkers beyond all get out. It is like, I loved San Mariano for Untouchable and for some of her other books, but this is the series that truly showed what a mastermind she is and how talented she is. And I just think she's epic. But this is a series that the first, you have to read this series in order. It isn't like these other ones where you can skip around. And it will probably piss you off. It will change what you thought you knew, and nothing remains the same as it goes. And the way you have it is that you have Accidental Witness, which is book 1. Ooh, my chest hurts there. And this one is about Mia and Vince, who Mia, as the title suggests, she sees something she shouldn't see. And so now she's on the radar of the mafia, and she has to be good and not tell anyone what she saw, or else she could get killed. And she is definitely tested by this family to make sure she's not going to tell. And if she ever were to leave Vince, if they don't stay together, she would have to be killed, basically. That's what we're told anyway. Then there is 3 other books that happen that are about different couples, okay? I don't actually own those ones because I'll be honest, I don't care for them as much, okay? I don't, but you have to read them, okay? I'm not kidding. This isn't a like, oh, well, I just don't like that. No, you have to read them. Because to get to the ones I'm about to show you, you have to have read these. So there's Surviving Mateo, and that is Mateo and Meg's love story, who is a widow with a child, and her husband had really fucked up. And so she gets asked to betray Mateo. And that is a very difficult thing to do. Mateo doesn't trust anyone. He is of a singular mind, and he's very devious. And if you betray him, he will destroy you in ways worse than just killing you. But she makes a go of getting with him, and he ends up falling for her in a certain way, we'll just say. And so that is their love story. Then there is Once Burned. And now I believe that one is a romance of one of the women who like works for Mateo and Mateo's right-hand man. And there is the romance between those two. And then there's Family Ties, which is Mateo's sister. Yeah, that one is Mateo's sister. And I can't remember who she gets with. I don't really care. But again, for how flippant I am, you have to read those. Luckily, none of them is super long. But the reason why you have to read those is it isn't so much about the couples that you'll see. It's about what's going on in the background, okay? There is stuff that's happening with people in the background that leads you to the second half of the series. Now, the second half of the series is basically one ongoing drama. There's no, I don't even want to say, but there is a romance going on in these ones. What is that in there? I have so many bookmarks in these because I've read different parts of them. But you have to have read the first 4 books before you get to these. So then there is Resisting Mateo, and I can't tell you what happens in any of these, okay? I'm just saying, by the time you get here, you'll know what this is about. And there is, let's say, some unconventional things that happen, all right? And the way that Sam Mariano says this is it's like you can read books 1 through 4 and just enjoy them as what they were and leave it. But she's definitely left hints for you about what's coming next. And if you start the second half of the series, things are not going to remain that happened in the first ones. And this is why this series, if you even look up the Goodreads, I mean, there'll be people that spoil it for you, so you can find out what happens if you really want to. But even her blurbs, she'll say, I'm not putting a blurb here because it'll spoil the series. Like, she literally did that, which I just love. So there's Resisting Mateo, which is book 5. Then there is Coming Home, which is book 6. There is Last Words, which is book 7. Then there is a book that, and so this one kind of wraps up the love story that we've been building, and that has been going on. Then there's book 8, which is a completely different couple story. So Last Words really wraps up the story of these that we've been reading. Then anyway, there's a book 8 and it's about a different guy. I'll put up a picture of it. I don't remember off the top of my head because I don't care. Then there is Entrapment, and this is a collection of like deleted scenes, but it also has Mateo's POV for a lot of the stuff we read earlier, because there are very few chapters with Mateo's POV throughout the series because we keep it a mystery what he knows and what he thinks. And then we finally get it in Entrapment. Then there is a spin-off trilogy that is the Morellis in Vegas. And so that is that's the Rafe guy that I mentioned, and we get to see his romance. So there's Staying in Vegas, Living in Vegas, Loving in Vegas, something like that. Oh, that's right. Old Flame is the other one, and it is Dante and Colette. There, she had it right at the end. So that is a series that is completed, but it is absolutely... Okay, now you can see why I was angled differently, because a lot of my Mafia books are behind my head, and so that shelf is destroyed right now, but the light cares not for what I want. So let's continue on. We're going to get a bit quicker with a few of these series, because I still have a lot to talk about, so we'll keep going. Next up, I have Michelle Hurd. Now, this is one of the authors that I was kind of talking about, where they just kind of continue with their books. Now, they do have some, I believe she's kind of wrapped up a few different worlds, because she has listed on her site that the series she's currently writing isn't connected with the other ones. I don't know that that's true. Again, sometimes authors will say it's a standalone series, and then there'll be characters that connect, right? So it's that. But I know she does have a series that this one stands alone better. I've actually read, I think I've read 3 of the 5 so far. I'm actively reading them. I have the other ones I haven't read yet, but I've kind of been savoring them because they've been really good ones. There is the Kings of the Mafia series. And this one starts with Tempted by the Devil, which is a I can't talk about all these ones, you guys. I'm sorry. There's so many plots and stuff in my mind, but this one is one where it's like brother tries to sell her to a guy to pay his debt, and the guy's like, screw you, I'm gonna make her my wife. Then there's Craving Danger, which I don't remember that one. Hunted by a Shadow is the one that I just read for the Mafia readathon this year, though. And that one involves a girl getting she gets an organ transplant, and the guy she gets it from was the, like, adopted brother of a Mafia Don, and so he wants revenge against the doctors who did the surgery, the people who harvested his guy's organs, because he was killed for his organs. Which, if you are a nurse or a doctor, you may get a bit annoyed, because I know my friend who's a nurse was like, this is ridiculous how this happened, but it's Mafia, we make some jumps. And so he ends up taking her captive, and his plan is to kill her to take the organ back so he can bury it with his friend, or his adopted brother, but he ends up not doing that. Then there's Drawn to Darkness and God of Vengeance. And I believe the way that this is a series is that there are 5 heads of 5 different mafia groups. I know one of these, is it Drawn to Darkness that's an arranged marriage? I don't know. But like I said, I have the next 2 audiobooks just waiting for me to have a breathing room to be able to listen to something for me. But there's that. Then there's the Saint Monarch's world. And these are all complete by what she says. So there's the saints, the sinners, and the corrupted royals, okay? And I think I've read like 60% of these. I haven't read all of the saints books, but I've read the sinners and the corrupted royals. So there is, I'll maybe put up a graphic of these ones, but there's the saints, which is merciless saints, cruel saints, ruthless, tears of betrayal, and tears of salvation. See, I've read a couple of those that were involved in an anthology or an anthology series. There's the Sinner series, which I've read all of these. There's Taken by a Sinner, Owned by a Sinner, Stolen by a Sinner, Chosen by a Sinner, and Captured by a Sinner. Owned by a Sinner being one of my 6-star books. Love that one. And then there's the Corrupted Royals, which I think I've read 3 of these 5. There's Destroy Me, Control Me, Brutalize Me, Restrain Me, and Possess Me. Okay? There's all of those. Now, she currently has the series that she's writing that I haven't read, but I want to read. That is like based off of like the tarot, which looks so interesting. So I haven't started this series yet, but there is the Hermit, let's see, what are they? Let me look these up here. Is it the Hermit, the Priestess, and Death, I think, so far? But yeah, it's like based on the tarot. The High Priestess, the Hermit, and Death are out so far. And that's like based on the tarot. So that one looks really good. But yeah, if you want ones that is completed, the Kings of the Mafia is a 5-set series that is completed. And then her Monarch world is ready as well. And that goes the Saints, the Sinners, and the Corrupted Royals. That's the order to read that series in. Okay, then the one that I destroyed my shelf for behind me is, of course, the Mafia Wars series. Okay, here we go. The Mafia Wars by Maggie Cole. This is an example I'll talk about of one where there's this series, then there's a spin-off, 2 spin-off series, which those are all completed, and then she started a 2nd gen, okay, which I haven't tried reading the 2nd gen yet. I don't know if I will, because this is an author that became pretty formulaic for me. Maggie Cole is actually an author that I worked for at one point, and I loved the time that I spent working with her. Like, I learned so much that honestly helps me now with working for Noelle Adams. But that doesn't mean that, like, her books became a bit formulaic for me, and the heroes are just kind of, like, mean in some of her newer ones for me, okay? But the Mafia Wars still remain some of my very favorite books. I absolutely fell in love with her with Ruthless Stranger, and I loved this whole series, okay? I have read most of the books in the New York Mafia Wars, and I've read some of the Irish ones as well. But those series of hers, like, are complete. So if you want to go through all of these, you can. There's even, I'm looking it up right now, pardon me. the series before this series has kind of the intro book. Let me pull it up, which I actually didn't read. I read Ruthless Strangers because her PA at the time sent me some PR for it, which I loved. But I believe the last book in the, let me find it here, y'all. Oh, in the Complicated series, the last one in that series is called Secret Mafia Billionaire. And that one is Dmitry Ivanov, which kicks off this series. But I think that whole series is billionaires. And so they're not all mafia, but the last one in the series is, which leads into the Mafia Wars, okay? So the way the Mafia Wars goes is it's kind of split into like two factions. The first 5 are the Russian Mafia, and the second half are some Irish Mafia, which is... Oh my gosh, there's so many of you guys. So anyway, we have Ruthless Stranger. Well, as I said, we'll go through these kind of quick. I love this one so much, but this one is also a few things. Most of her characters are all over 30s. Some are even in their 40s. They are pretty heavily BDSM focused, and particularly this series, like, there is a lot of overlapping stories, so it's written so you can kind of jump into any book you want to, which again, I know that's not the point of this video. This point is series that are completed, but the reason I say that is that if you binge these books, you will notice a lot of overlapping scenes, and that can get a little bit fatigue, right? Now, if you were like me and you were reading them as they came out, when you see those repeated scenes, it's kind of just like a reminder of stuff you've seen, right? But for some of them, you do see the same scene in like 5 of the 10 books or something. And so this is a series that I don't honestly recommend binging completely, because it can get kind of like you feel like it's very repetitive. That's a very strong point on her favor though, because she is thinking that like, okay, I'm writing all of these books at one time, but if someone were to just pick up this book, what would they know? And when you are writing mafia romance, but it is also kind of trope focused, that can be a smart thing to do, right? But because in this video we're talking about series in that context, I just have to warn you that there is a lot of repetitive scenes. But anywho, this one is a double night stand in Vegas, and then they get back to their real world not knowing who the other one is, and then they run into each other, and now it's over for Aspen. She's hooked, and she's gonna be with, sorry, let me check. This one is, I forget his name, it's been so long, Maxim and Aspen in there. Then we have Broken Fighter, and this one is Brother's Best Friend, Russian Mafia. So this one is Nora and Boris, and this one is when we really start to see some of the Irishmen, some of the O'Malleys, because the O'Malleys and the Ivanovs are friendly mafia groups, right? And but this is still kind of forbidden because they haven't really intermarried at all, and so this would be, it's still not something that they want to happen, right? And it's also a brother's best friend, so yeah, but he's also a boxer, and I believe this one's accidental pregnancy. I think that is. Then we have Cruel Enforcer, which this one never gets enough love. This one I believe is the interracial romance. Our heroine is African American, I believe, and also she's older by I think like 5 years in this one, and she's a lawyer. This one is Cora, and yeah, this one's Cora and Sergey. And I love Cora. I really do. She does some really amazing work as a lawyer, particularly for a character we're going to talk about in a minute. And yeah, she is the older woman in this case. And these two have a super sexy relationship. This is one I feel like doesn't get enough love. I don't talk about this one a ton, but this one, I really, really do enjoy this one as well. This whole series is pretty good. Then we have Vicious Protector. And this one is Adrian and Skylar. And I can't say I fully remember this one, but this is Adrian Ivanov. And it says in this one that I can't remember who this one is. It's a vicious protector. And there's something from his past that puts them in danger. I can't say I fully remember the tropes for this one, but this is one of the forgotten ones. Let's just be honest, okay? Because then there's Savage Tracker, which was a 6-star book for me. I adore this one. This one makes my heart squeeze so hard because this one is Obrek, I think is how we say his name, and Selena. And Selena is getting out of an extremely abusive marriage where it was a master slave, an actual slave, and not a BDSM master slave, because she was not consenting. She was basically tricked into marrying this older man who made her his slave, as in like dog collar, sleep in a cage, eat out of a food bowl. You are my absolute slave. And it's a miracle that she's able to get away. And so this is why I brought up why I love Cora, because Cora is her lawyer and is helping her with this divorce. And Selena is very timid. She's very shy. And she's also very confused because she does, in a way, feel kind of at loose ends without having someone dominating her. Okay? She wants it to be consensual, but she's feeling very lost because that's all she's ever known. Her brain has been kind of rewired to be that way. And Obrecht gets kind of assigned in a way, but he's happy to do it, actually, because Selena is living in one of the penthouses that the Ivanovs own. That's something they're involved in Chicago, is real estate. And Cora, through her connections now with, who did I say she was with? I forgot who she was with, but whoever Cora was with, he asked his cousin to look out for her because they're in the same penthouse buildings. And so they begin to get close, and he picks up on these hints that she is submissive. And so for him, of course, he doesn't understand the full width and breadth of the relationship she was in, of what she was forced to do. And when he finds out that she's thinking and is going to a kink club, she doesn't really vet it very safely. She just goes to one, and she immediately starts getting kind of pushed around by a dominant there. And Obrecht is like, hold on, girl. Like, I realize you think this is what you need, and I would never tell you you're wrong, but maybe we can, you know, play it a bit cooler in that way, and let me help you out. And so he agrees to be her top. He doesn't call himself a dom or a master because he's never liked having the responsibility of the after. Like, he likes to go and play and do a scene, but he doesn't like the responsibility of being fully there for someone. Like, he wants to be able to leave it at home, and that is not what Selena is used to at all. So it's very interesting how they look into those, but also how he teaches her what a safe word is, basically, because she's never been allowed. Like, again, she was not in a healthy relationship. She was being forced into everything. She couldn't say no, or she was basically being tortured. And so he teaches her what a safe word is and how he has to trust that she would use one. And I loved what Maggie did in this book so much. And it's why I will still hold such respect for her writing, is for some of the books in this series where, being a connoisseur, as it were, of BDSM romance, I feel like the things that were looked into in here were so well done and touched upon that, honestly, I uphold this as one of the best BDSM romances I've read. And I truly wish, like, I'm just saying this, I truly wish that some of the others I've read from her had even come close to that again, because I've really been chasing that from her ever since, right? Okay, then we transitioned into the Irish ones. Those were that first 5, as I said, is the Ivanovs, and then we went over to the O'Malleys, okay? So this one is Liam and, let me remember her name here. This is Liam and Hallie. And this one I also really like. So Liam's actually been in prison, and this, we get an intro to a story that will really follow the O'Malleys, and we will see it from all different angles all the way through. But Liam actually was in prison, and he is the next in line, and so he gets out, and his father is very sick, and so he's trying to speed run catching Liam up on everything, which he has been able to stay informed in prison. Like, of course, there's mafia within that prison and everything. But when he gets out, he's also missed out on so much of life. So I thought that was fascinating. And he's never really been in love. And he meets Hallie. And I believe Hallie is like a teacher. And she's friends with the group of girls or the group of ladies that we've met. And so she doesn't quite know what she's getting into with him, but they just have this crazy attraction and they kind of just go for it. Now, as they get to know each other, not only this one has, sorry, this is a side note, but this one has one of the funnest like sex stuff going on in here that isn't as like heavy or dark as some of the other BDSM can feel. Like, she makes him a prize chart because she's a teacher, and so she has this in her mind that there are these different things he can do to earn points, and then there's literally like a toy chest and like prizes he could win. And I'm sorry, it's adorable. Okay, it is fun, and I'm literally have always kept it in my mind that like he can get points for like number of orgasms she has and for like different things he does. And then there's literally like a chest of like different toys they can use together. There's one, my favorite one is like he can win this one of the sex painting kits. Like, she has it where they can do the, you know, like have sex on the canvas thing. Like, she literally has a prize chest for it. Okay, it's adorable. It's so cute. But in the background of that, there's actually some secrets about her past that she doesn't know about herself that could be conflicting with his mafia family. So very interesting. I'm taking too long here. We have Perfect Sinner. This one is, I believe, the moment we collide, he wants to destroy me. It's the blood of my arch nemesis. There's a war raging inside him, or me is stronger. Instead of running away, he keeps me close. This couple is Nolan and Gemma. Okay, Gemma, I don't want to say who Gemma is, but it does connect with Unchosen Ruler. There is Brutal Defender. This is Killian O'Malley. And, okay, this one is a Italian mafia boss who she has to marry. So, so she will do anything not to marry an Italian mafia boss. And so she ends up getting married off to Killian O'Malley. So this one is an arranged marriage. And I'm remembering too, this one has the seeds of what the spin-off series is about, because this one's bringing the Italian mafia into it, and we will get back to them. So that is what this one does. Then we have Deviant Tracker, and I might have put these in no, I got these in my, this one is a captor-captive. He captures the wrong woman kind of thing. It's a woman who's a hacker, and he captures her and basically keeps her in his basement trying to get info from her. And this one has daddy kink. He does kind of use sex as like a torture technique. So this one's pretty dark as it is, but I really liked this one a lot. And yeah, this one had daddy kink in it. So there's that. Then we have one of the most agonizing books that I've read in a long time. Though this was a 6-star read because it was fantastic. All of the books were leading up to this. This is about Finn and, let me find her name here, and Brenna. And it is agonizing. Okay, there's no other way to say it. This is a second chance romance. Now, Finn, he went to prison with Liam. And we've been hearing bits and pieces about why they went to prison, what the thing was that happened, how everything blew up the way that it did, and what went down. Okay, like we find out all of that in this one. But this one takes us through the flashbacks of how Brenna and Finn fell in love and how it went desperately wrong, how he ended up in prison, and how she ended up the forced mistress of this vile, despicable man who does horrible things to her, such things as like false or like forced sterilization, forced body modification, as in like plastic surgery that's done to her, removing her being able to have pregnancies because the guy wants to be able to fuck her without worrying about it. Like so many awful, awful things. And so when Finn gets out of prison, all he wants is to find Brenna. And it isn't as easy as he thinks it's going to be. And it's devastating. So, yeah, this book broke me. So that's the whole series of that right there. And those are the ones that are done. Now, I'm getting way too long. We still have other series to talk about here quickly. But then that spins off into the Mafia Wars New York, which, as I mentioned with Brutal Defender, that is the sister to these brothers that we'll meet, okay? And so then there's Toxic, Immortal, Crazed, Carnal, and Flawed, and that is the Italian Mafia series. Then there was one more spin-off series in the regular timeline, which is the Irish ones, okay? And there was the Mafia Wars Ireland, which had Illicit King, Illicit Captor, Illicit Heir, and Illicit Monster. And then she has just started a second gen series, which is the Underworld, which I have not tried to read yet. I haven't done these yet. Because I'll just tell you, I fell off with the Irish book 1. I never did read Flawed, so I didn't finish out the Italian series. But then when I was working for her, we had the first 2 Irish ones were coming out. And so I did read those. But then it wasn't even because I stopped working with her that I didn't keep reading. It was because they were getting really repetitive for me. What can I say? So now she has the second gen series. And there's Bride by Initiation and Bride by Coronation that have just come out. So I don't know whose kids those are because I didn't look into these ones, but that is her second gen series. So if you're not interested in second gen series, there are still 3 full complete series, which are 20 books. Okay, there's 10 in the Mafia Wars, there's 6 in the New York, and there's 4 in the Ireland. So there's 20 books that are completed, that are the first generation of this Mafia world that you can read. So lots of content from Maggie Cole if you want to dive in. And as I said, I have no problems at all recommending the Mafia Wars, the first series. I did enjoy most of the New York ones, but I didn't finish the Ireland because it just got a bit repetitive. As I said, when you binge fully all of that, it's a lot. Okay, so now to just hurry through these last ones, because truly I've talked too much about them. I also have the Mazone Mafia by Siobhan Davis. This is just a trilogy. And there is, I know one of them is an accidental pregnancy. So many books, you guys. There is Condemned to Love, Forbidden to Love, and Scared to Love. And I really enjoyed book 1, which was a secret baby, which, as I say, I don't always love secret babies, but I like that one. Then we have Jagger Cole. So this is another one that he has a never-ending litany of books, okay? And I started with him with the Dark Heart series. So I'll show you that. I've read this whole series and I enjoyed this whole series. But when I started other series that are connected, it started to feel like repeats. My computer is slippery and so are my leggings. So this is why when I got this question at the beginning, it's ones where the spin-offs are done. I mean, I haven't read any of the spin-offs and I feel perfectly content with that. Though, I'll say, he does have a Yakuza series that I do want to try eventually because I don't read a lot of Yakuza. But the Dark Heart series, I loved. And I recommend, because this was dark, this was over the top. This series feels like a mixture of the S.J. Tilly over the top bonkers men with dark hard edge, okay? I also liked this, as I say, because I found reading a man's POV of sex to be really interesting, okay? Now, I don't always want to read that. But I think men can write sex well just as well as women can. It's about your perspective. It's about what you're looking for. But I found it fascinating, I say this, about what a male orgasm is written as. Okay, I know that's weird, but I'm a nerd like that. And we read a lot about how women write a man's orgasm feeling. And when we read a man's writing a woman orgasm, we can get judgy about it, right? And I'll say there's points in here where the woman just explodes every time he touches her, blah, blah, blah. But in the same way that I can be annoyed about how a man writes that, I can get annoyed how women write men too. I'm not pointing at anyone specifically. There are just certain things that pop up. And I have found that the like intense way that he writes the male POV of sex to be fascinating. And obviously, this isn't something we say own voices about, but it's true. We say that in other aspects. I just find it fascinating. Now, again, there are parts of how he writes. These are all BDSM. They're all dark. There's a lot of free use in his. There's kink in every single one. That's just his style. That's what he writes. So does Maggie Cole, as I said. I haven't read a book from her that didn't have BDSM in it. That is what she's comfortable writing. That's what she writes. That's what Jagger Cole writes. So, very dark. But let's be fair. Out of all the ones I've been talking about, pretty much all of them have some form of that. But there is... Wait, do I have these in the wrong order? Where's my book one? This is book one. Yes, okay. Deviant Hearts is book one. I also like it because this was a different type of mafia. So I believe this one is, if I'm right, there's a Greek mafia, an Italian mafia mixed in here, and then we get some bratva in here. But this one is an arranged marriage. And I just remember being like blown away by these. I'm also happy because he's now getting audiobooks done of all of his, like at least the ones coming forward. I'm actually waiting for that Yakuza series to start getting audiobooks, and I'm going to try to then read those. But I have read all of the Dark Hearts and some of the Venomous Gods. I've read a few of those ones. But anywho, so we have Deviant Hearts, which is an arranged marriage. We have Vicious Hearts, which is a forced marriage. This is my favorite one of his. This is Una and Killian, I think it's Killian. And he's just almost like a sociopath, and she's sent to kill him. And he survives her almost killing him. And then he makes her marry him. So that's fascinating. Then we have Stolen Hearts. And this one is an enemies to lover. They're all enemies to lovers. This one's Elsa. This one's Elsa and Hades. My first mistake was sleeping with the most dangerous man in New York without him knowing who I was. My second was believing that he never would find out who I was. Okay, so there's that. One night stand turned crazy, I guess. Then this one is Twisted Hearts. This is probably my second favorite. This one is the free use one where like he catches her trying to steal something from him. And so then he forces her to be his assistant as well as let him do whatever he wants to her sexually. So definitely some coercion there. Then there is Stolen Hearts. And this one is a best friend's older brother, Mafia Romance. And I think this one ends up being a marriage of convenience as well. Maybe I'm right about that one. Then there is Reckless Hearts, which I don't have that one. So that was the Dark Heart series. Now, if you look on his website, he shares his reading order for you. His reading order. And there is so many of his, okay? Like I said, I started with Dark Hearts. I feel like I have read some of his other ones now. Like I read a few of the Bratva's Claim, and I did also read one of his novella trilogies. And I personally feel like Dark Hearts that series is my fave. So that's what I always recommend people start with him. But if you go to his website, he will show you that he recommends that you read the Bratva Claim series, the Savage Heirs, the Kings and Villains, then Dark Hearts. Then there's Venomous Gods, Memento Mori, and The Darkest Dance, okay? Then he has some others that fit in other places too. So currently the Darkest Dance are the books that are coming out right now. Yeah, those are his world. And there are plenty of his series that are completed, though this is the author where he's going to keep spinning them off from each other, right? But I did like, as I said, he has some of the Greek mafia mixed in here. That's the family that has like the Greek names that I was saying. There's Hades and there is, so that one's the Irish mafia meets the Greek mafia in some of those ones, which is cool when you see some different ones. And then as I said too, he has the Yakuza get brought in there as well. So super cool and a little different because it's written by a man, which means, yes, some of the sex scenes, the women come way too easily, but I like reading sex from the man's point of view once in a while when, like, he's showing the man's feelings and not just that from a woman's point of view. It's different. It's unique. Okay, then the last series I want to mention is one that's finished, so I wanted to throw that out there. And that is, whoop, where did I put it? And that is the Eva Winners Kingpins of the Syndicate. So I've read 2 of these 4, but the series is complete. I just had like fallen off of those because I got behind a little bit. Let me pull it up. Eva Winners also has lots of Mafia. Here we go. So the Kingpins of the Syndicate, I read Villainous Kingpin, which is book 1. And that one is I believe that one's the Second Chance Romance. Is that one? Yeah, I think that one's the Second Chance Romance one. Then there's Devious Kingpin. Then there's Scandalous Kingpin. And there's Ravenous Kingpin. So there's those ones. The audiobooks were quite good, what I've read so far. But yes, this author has The Stolen Empire, The Russian Sinners. I've read the first of that one. The Thorns of Lust, The Bells and Monsters. So she has a whole bunch of Mafia as well. But the only one I've read Marked, as I said. And then I read one other random one from her. But the series that's complete is the Kingpin one. So, all right, this video ended up being an hour and a half. What can you do? I hope there are some great ones in here for you. I'll have links to at least the first book in each series down below, because otherwise I'll have like 50 books, 60 books to put in my description, so I'll have the first of each. But let me know some of your favorite series. I know by no means is this completed. Like, there's lots of ones I didn't talk about. I didn't put in Cora Riley or Sophie Lark or what are some of the other ones too? I don't know. There's just too many for my brain to think of. But these are ones that are completed. Some of them are older, so I thought it was good. But ones I haven't maybe talked about as much. So there you go. Let me know what your thoughts are. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure you like it and subscribe. I have a whole playlist of dark romance, which mostly includes Mafia there. I put up taboo and dark recommendations, as well as contemporary and small town. I read some of everything. As long as it's romance, I'm into it. So thank you so much for watching, friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye.